We can see this is the full curve. This should be a positive correlation almost exactly according to bonds. So it doesn't really give us much value, does it? If it's almost an exact negative correlation, well, what value does it have? Well, the only value it has is to try to figure out whether you can forecast what it's going to do next. Well, if you can forecast what the blue line is going to do next, you can forecast what bonds are going to do next, can't you? Well, I can't forecast what the blue line is going to do next until we start adding some other elements. And the element that I added so that people could understand this was I added the 2's 5's. Because when we look at the 2's 5's, something interesting happens. We end up with a very strong positive correlation most of the time, Mike. We end up with a very strong positive correlation most of the time. But if the blue line is the 6x1s, and this is the question that Reeve suggested, that the tub just now is actually 5x1, but you know, the idea is because I wanted to try and get simple arithmetic for you guys to try and work this out. If we're using a 6x1, and it's not going to, the shape of the blue line, by the way, isn't going to change by changing it to a 5x1. It's still going to be identical, basically. So on the basis of the 6x1, and we look at the red line, which is 3zt by 2zf's. In other words, it's the 2's 5's, 3 by 2. And the 2's 5's, 3 by 2 is the TAF, as you probably already know if you trade these curves. So all we've done is we've looked at it and says, well, if I don't know which one leads and which one lags, because sometimes the back end leads and sometimes the front end leads. We don't know which end's going to lead. They have different drivers. So we can always have a different leader at different times. But assuming that we accept that divergence is reversed, so the blue lines drop through this phase, the red lines rally through this phase, will be reversed. As a bond trader in a bank, what you do is you sell the red line, you buy the blue line. In other words, you're not trying to forecast which one's right and which one's wrong. You sell the red line and you buy the blue line. You can see obviously in due course, if I just draw a couple of line extensions here, so the blue line ends up obviously in profit if I buy it, and the red line actually ends up in profit as well if I sell it. We end up making a profit over the course of a couple of days. Brilliant, right? So knowing that this is the case, knowing that if I buy the blue line and sell the red line over a period, I'll make money. And that's without even taking best prices, of course. If we take the best prices, we would make a lot more money. But you can see what I'm doing. I'm selling 3ZTs and I'm buying 2ZFs. I'm buying 6ZTs and I'm selling a ZB contract. Now, obviously, if I do the math on this, it's very, very simple. If I'm selling 3ZTs and buying 6ZTs, why don't I just double this number? You might be saying, but that's cheating. Of course it's not cheating. I'm selling the red line. If I double these two numbers from 3 and 2 to 6 and 4, what am I actually doing? Nothing at all. The red line will still be identical. It won't have changed the shape of the red line one single bit. So what happens? I end up with 6 ZT contracts and 4 ZFs. Well, if I sell 6 ZTs and I buy 6 ZTs, guess what happens? I end up with no ZT contracts. What do I end up with? A buy on the 4 ZFs and a sell ZB. What is that? That is the FOB spread. In other words, when you trade this, you're trading the FOB spread. Woohoo! Finally, people start realizing how often we make money on these types of trades. Now, some people might say, yeah, but the FOB spread is only 3x1s now and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course. It changes, guys. Sometimes the FOB spread is 3x1s. Sometimes the FOB spread is 4x1s. It changes, but it doesn't make any difference. The idea is that we're getting close to the point where we can make a decision about what the FOB spread is doing. So in this world here, I know that if I'm buying the blue line and selling the red line, I can already start recognizing that the FOB spread should be almost straight north. As a buyer in this area, the FOB spread should be rising. If I look at the FOB spread during that period, you'll see the FOB spread touches on some lows and then manages to rally. After we come up with that possible sell, you can see the FOB spread falls. So in other words, you can forecast what the FOB spread is doing. Now, if you can forecast what the FOB spread is doing, we can also forecast what bonds are doing, because the FOB spread is a very, very wide spread for trying to trade bonds. If I buy the FOB spread, of course, I'm buying ZF and selling ZB. We can obviously start to understand that as a bond trade, that the bond trade should be trading. If this FOB spread is steepening, we're going to be selling a lot of ZBs in due course, and we can obviously look at the ZB as a sell trade during that period. So any higher high on bonds is probably going to be a brilliant opportunity to sell bonds. Boom, down she goes. You can't make it up, guys. But we'll be covering this more in classroom tomorrow, when it's more appropriate to cover treasuries in a separate classroom. But it should start to make a lot of sense. This is why sometimes the FOB spread is in play for bonds, and when the FOB spread is sometimes out of play for bonds, because we always know what the FOB spread should be getting traded based on the predictor of the FOB spread rather than the predictor of the belly. And it's just another way of thinking about the markets, guys, another way of contemplating these ideas. So if we buy the blue line, we're buying 6 ZTs. If we sell the red line, we're selling 6 ZTs, and we're buying the 4 ZFs. We're buying the belly. So if we're buying, the 5s, we know where we should probably be going into. We should probably be looking at the market, trying to work off of high prices and sell off. Well, that's exactly what we've started to see. That was obviously this morning. This was at sort of 3:30 this morning. It was also at about 8:45 this morning. But the bond had already sold at that stage, so it was too late to make the call. It's too late to make the call.